Hi class, so today we're going to be continuing working on building off of the directions for two-step equations. We're starting with multiple step equations tonight. You need to write this I can statement down in your I can paper that we stapled to the front of your notes. The whole thing which says I can solve multiple step linear equations. Pause this and make sure you get this down. Like always, we've got some vocabulary we need to conquer. First, we're going to start with variable. I'm going to think about all of the things we've done before now and what the variable means. But simply put, the variable is the letter that stands for an unknown number or a number that we have not solved for yet. Okay? So that's really important to write that down. Pause the video and write this down. All right, so constant. Well, if a variable is the letter, the constant is the other number, the number that doesn't change. So the real definition of constant is the number that doesn't change. We know 4 is the number 4. We know 12 is the number 12. And the same thing is true for our negative numbers. Negative 190 is still negative 190. Now, like terms. Like terms are where we combined when two or more things are the same. So an example of this would be is if we had 2x plus 3x plus 2 equals 8. We can combine the 2x and the 3x because they both have the same variable. They both have x's. And we know that those added together would give us 5 x's. Okay? So that's where this comes from, these vocabulary words. Pause the video, write down all of the highlighted information. So the steps for two-step equations that we did last week and we've been practicing are the same for multiple steps, but we have to ask one question before that. And that really important question is, which side do you want that variable on? It doesn't matter which side the variable ends up on in equations. So pick a side and stick with it. All right, so when I look at this, I look at the problem. So the first question I ask myself is, which side do I want the variable on? So I look at the example. So my first example is 4w minus 2 equals 5w. And I look at it and I go, well, the easiest thing to do would be to take the 4w over here and move it to this side of the equation, because then it would leave this negative 2 by itself. So that's what I would do in this problem. Is I would leave the number on the left side and put the w's on the right side. Well, in looking at this problem, where I have negative 4m minus 3 equals negative 2m minus 3, I really could do it either direction. It doesn't matter. The easier way is to leave your m's on the left and move your numbers over, mainly because there's more m's on this side. You see how there's negative 2 more m's over here than over here. Now, on this last one, I can't actually make the decision until I use the distributive property. That distributive property tells me that I have 2 times 4x, so that gives me 8x, and I have 2 times positive 2, which gives me 4. I'm not quite sure why it says the other, but let's change that to 4. It says 4. Okay, so then I can go through and now make the decision, do I want my x's on the left or the right? I see that I have 12x on this side, on the right side, so I'm going to move my x's over. So that's what I do. All right, so I would, on your notes, write that down. All right, so like I said before, This is very similar to the two-step directions, so I'm now going to find the variable and put a box around it. Well, now notice when I do this on the first example, I end up having two boxes. On the second example, I have two boxes. And on that third example, which I don't have written out, is 8x plus 4 equals 12x. I still also have two boxes. Okay, so when I'm dealing with a multiple step equation, I might have two boxes, one on each side of the equation. If I have two boxes that happen to be on the same side of the equation, I need to combine those like terms. Make sure on your examples you have written down what I have done so far. All right, so now I'm looking at this, and I've got our three examples again. Now it says I need to circle the number that's next to the variable but not in the box. So I'm looking at our first choices here, that 4w minus 2 equals 5w. I'm just going to put a circle around that 2w. Next one over, I'm going to be circling this -3 and this -3. Pause the video and do the last one without my help. Alright, you should have circled just that +2. Alright, so now what? Now in our steps, our next direction was to do the inverse operation to the number. Well, remember, we're trying to move things around. So on this first one, am I going to move the 2 at all? No, I'm moving the 4. Am I moving the 5? No. So I'm moving the 4. Because remember, we decided that on this problem, we were going to have the numbers here and the w's over there. So this is that step of trying to remember where things are getting moved to. I actually write them down so then I remember what my goal is. Okay? So in this first one, I'm moving I want to get my numbers alone on the left and my letters all the way to the right. So I put in my line. So I can't do this step here because, like I said, I'm moving my w's, not my numbers. Okay, so now we're going to come over here and we're going to move our numbers over. Opposite of -3 is +3. If I do it to one side of the equation, I do it to both sides. So everything I haven't dealt with, which is in our boxes, I'm going to bring straight down. -4m equals -2m. And then I'm also going to add -3 plus 3, that gives me +0. And this last one, looking at it, I want to leave my numbers on the left and my letters are on the right, so I can't do anything on this step for this one. All right, so now number 5 is clean up. So here we have it all cleaned up just like I just did, because for some reason I just go to the next step automatically. Now, we look at the variable in the box and do the inverse operation to move it to the other side if we need to move it. So, I put in some missing information on this slide. Again, identifying where I want my numbers to go and where I want my letters to go. So I'm looking right here, and I see here's my box, and I have a box on the other side of the equation. I want all of my w's, which are my letters, to end up on this right side of my equation. So I'm going to look over here and do the opposite of what's in this box. So positive 4w, that's a positive 4w, so that's the opposite of positive is negative. And I need to do it to both sides of the equation. So those cancel out to give me 0. I did not do anything with this -2 in my circle, so it comes straight down. My equal sign, and then 5w minus 4w gives me 1w. All right, let's at the next example. Again, remembering I want my m's on the left and my numbers on the right. So I have left right here. So we have to move our m's to this side. So we're going to look at this m right here. And I see that it is a -2m. Opposite of -2m is positive 4m plus 4m. I mean, excuse me, not 4. It's a 2. 2m plus 2m. All right, so now I bring it down. I have 0 on this side still. I don't have to write this 0 here anymore, so I'm not going to. -4m plus 2m gives me -2m. Now, over here on my last example, I want my whole numbers over here and my letter x over here. So with that said, I need to move this box with my x over to this box. So it's a +8. Class, what is a +8? Opposite of +8? -8x. -8x. So I'm left with 4 equals 4x. All right, so pause the video. Make sure you have these in your notes. All right, so now I need to solve for my w in the first one. Well, clearly 0 minus 2 is still -2, and 1w is just w. So my answer is -2 equals w. All right, so now I'm looking at the second equation, and I have what's left of it is -2m equals 0. I'm looking here at the -2m. And I ask myself, what is happening? Well, I know that when a number is touching my letter, that means multiplication. So I've got -2 times m. The opposite of timesing is dividing. And I do that whole -2 goes with it. The whole thing goes with it. Now I have m equals 0. So 0 divided by -2 is still 0. And on my last one over here, the 4 equals 4x. Again, I see that the 4 and the x are being times, so I'm going to divide by 4 on both sides. That leaves me 1 equals x. All right, class, so I know this movie was longer than others. We will cover in class these two practice ones, okay? Have a good night. Bye.